your host, Mark Rattel, and we're back with another episode. We're here, dude. We got the Christmas tree going, it's still alive. We got some Christmas decor, and we're hanging out, dude. I hope you guys are having a good one. It's been a crazy week for me, man. I'm just hanging in there by a thread, but we're trucking along. Glory to God for all struggles is, that's how you make diamonds, under pressure. You got to put them under pressure, and that's how gems are formed. But the title of this episode is The Birth of Christ Overrides All Psyops. And it's pretty clear. There's a lot of psyops going on right now. Like, everywhere you look, there's a new one, And, hey, what's up, Gorilla Biscuits? Nice to see you, dude. Thanks for popping on in, man. Great to see you as always. We got the lighting a little bit more dim. I mean, we got decent lighting, but it's a little bit dimmer than usual. Trying to create those vibes, those cozy Christmas vibes, kind of. But we're going to kick it off with a little monologue. We'll see how far it goes. I don't have any notes. I'm going to freestyle it. Freestyle monologue. Please pray for me. I've never done it before. But I see Provo do it all the time, so I gotta try. I gotta see what I can do. I gotta get these notes in my dome. Gotta put these notes in my dome. So the thing is, everywhere you look, there's psyops. I mean, I'm not gonna bring too much attention to it. I'm trying to talk about it without talking about it. But we all know what's going on with the Erica Kirk, Candace thing, and you think one side seems more reasonable, and then the other side seems less reasonable, and then what just happened? You find out everybody's an actress. Everybody's an actor. You know what I mean? Some people are just better actors or better actresses than others. You know what I mean? So that's really what it all came down to. One person was a better actress than the other person. That's where I'm at. I don't want to force my beliefs on you, but I'm going to rant, and this is where the monologue is going. It's like, it's just madness, dude. It's madness out here. Greetings. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Appreciate the kind words. Appreciate you guys being here. But, I almost got sucked back into it, dude. Even me, I'm susceptible to it too. And I'm one of the biggest truthers out there, especially in the Orthodox community. I hold my truther roots close to my heart. I hang on to them because, the thing is, that's part of what brought me to Orthodoxy. And it's like, I understand it gets out of order at a certain point, it gets out of control at a certain point, and you have to have your priorities in order. What I've come to realize through this whole process, starting out as a truther, trying to really follow the truth to just get to the bottom of every rabbit hole. And at the bottom of pretty much all these rabbit holes was Christ. You know what I mean? If you dig deep enough, if you really follow the truth to its fullest extent, and you're honest with yourself. That's the huge part. And it's going to be an uncomfortable kind of honesty that it's uncomfortable. It's not something that's fun to confront. You usually have to go through like a lot of people hit like a rock bottom before they come to Orthodoxy. I hit my own version of a rock bottom, which was me at a 15-gram psychedelic ceremony, jumping into a fire, hitting somebody. If you know that story, you know it. I'm not going to go through it again, but that was my rock bottom that I had to hit before I came to Orthodoxy. And there was other things along the way that kind of were leading me to that culmination, that climax, that ultimate moment that just kind of, it's like a huge high into a huge, literally just diving into a pit of fire, like laying in it and just laying there. But everybody has a different version of that. Some aren't as dramatic as that, and some are more internal. Some just are led to a place of internal despair, maybe and suicidal thoughts, and it really starts taking action. And that logisme kind of, we can latch onto that, and we can engage with it to a point where it kind of manifests itself into reality through our actions, through our engaging with those thoughts, that aren't really from us, which, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of shame without the Orthodox phronema and the Orthodox perspective to see these situations from. You can find yourself in a lot of shame, even coming out on the other side of them, not committing suicide. You could feel shame just for even getting that low, letting those thoughts get you to that point. But you got to realize those thoughts don't really come from you. Those thoughts are coming from outside yourself, you know. But we do have the ability to choose to engage with them or not, and that's where our responsibility kind of comes in. But it's hard to even know that if you don't know that, you know. If you don't have the church and the writings of the saints and the phronema of orthodoxy to that lens to see that situation through, it's just very confusing and chaotic. And that's where you see a lot of the world at right now, just very confusing. And one of the key factors in a psyop is gaslighting. There's always going to be a point like where, and it could be done in different ways, like with controlled opposition. One of the things they'll do is they will say the truth. Like Candace was saying some true things there, you know what I mean? For a minute on a couple of things. And there's other people that say some true things sometimes. Alex Jones may say some true things sometimes, you know what I mean? But a common factor you'll see in being able to kind of spot someone who's controlled opposition will be they'll say the truth, but then they'll do something. Maybe they say it in an exaggerated way, or they say it in a very over-the-top, goofy kind of way that makes that truth seem foolish and makes all the people that speak that truth and agree with that truth in reality seem foolish. And they try to invalidate it by making it seem silly, or even through gaslighting, where they'll, like if you saw the last episode, so Candace and Erica meet, right, behind closed doors or whatever, and she does an episode after she's playing Jewish music at the beginning, and she's being sarcastic, like, oh, I totally sold out to Israel. And she's like, I mean, it honestly seems like she did. It's basically, it seems to me like she's stating the truth in a sarcastic manner to invalidate all the other people that will speak that same truth in a realistic manner. It's like, you know what I mean? It's gaslighting 101, dude. It's like, this is how these situations work. This is how it works, man. And that's how you spot it. You know, you don't need to gaslight if you're in the truth. You don't use gaslighting if you're a humble person just operating in truth. You don't see monks going around gaslighting people. You see politicians do this stuff because they want power. They want to, they're manipulating. It's a form of manipulation for power. Monks don't want power. They give away all their possessions and give their life over to Christ. You know what I mean? There's true power. There's a different type of power in that, though. You see what I'm saying? We're not talking about worldly power. There's another worldly power in that. It's just crazy, man. It's crazy that we have to keep getting reminded by life in different ways. You know, like life has to even me, I get caught up in it sometimes. And I know these people are actresses. These are literal actresses, dude. And actors and, you know, all these people that get propped up on these pedestals. There's some people that can build their way up naturally from the ground up, but these people that just kind of pop up, these talking heads that kind of come out of nowhere, you know, you got to ask yourself, why are we putting so much time and energy and giving them so much attention, especially as we're in the middle of the nativity fast and we're moving towards the birth of Christ. You know, this is where our focus should be aligned on the birth of Christ, which overrides all this nonsense, all psyops, you know, all these people, all these talking heads nonsense. The birth of Christ overrides all that. I mean, by leaps and bounds, especially if you're in the church, experiencing the life of the church, experiencing the feast day, experiencing that in a church community with your people, agape, and breaking bread with these people and having beautiful conversations about different testimonies and the way people came to Christ and theological discussions and what have you. But it's like all these psyops are here to do, and all the demons are here to do in general, is to distract you from Christ, distract you from prayer, distract you from your family, distract you from what really matters. And it'll always be some nonsense, and it'll just keep going, and it'll get dragged out, and you start noticing, wait, both sides are profiting off of someone's death. This side's profiting off of someone's death, and this side's profiting off of someone's death. And it just keeps going and going and going, and there's no resolution, and it goes. Oh, wait, more chaos. Oh, wait, more confusion. Oh, wait, a new rabbit hole within the rabbit hole. Great. Great job. But not really, because there's no clarity. Do you have any clarity? If you went down these rabbit holes that I'm talking about, did it bring you more clarity? I mean, some rabbit holes can bring you clarity through the proper lens, but I'm talking about right now, these psyops that are abound, that are popping up right now, they're very confusing, aren't they? Because they're meant to be. They're not meant to provide clarity. They're meant to distract you and leave you in this just like wandering in confused circles with no real direction. And it never gets to a conclusion. It never gets to a goal. And if it does get to a conclusion, the end it comes to is like, what? It's like an M. Night Shyamalan twist. It's like they were heading in the truth direction, and then boom, total like left turn, and it's like they sold out so quick. Well, they were sold out from the get. They're just showing you who they are, but they took you along for the ride, and then you get mad at yourself for going along for the ride. Oh, they fooled us again. You know? I remember when I was pro-Trump, and it's like, it's not even about politics to me. But I remember I was pro-Trump. I was into politics. I'm not into politics anymore. But at that time, I remember what the breaking point for me was seeing him be pro-jibby jabs. You know? I saw that. I saw him backing that, and I was like, nah. Instantly, I was just like, nah, something's up here, dude. I can't get down with that. And I never went back. You know what I mean? It's just like, once you lose that credibility, you really can't gain it back again, man. You really, I mean, but people forget. People nowadays, they have such a short attention span. They'll get done wrong like 1 second. If 5 minutes later, they're putting their trust in this talking head again, instead of putting their trust in the church, in Christ, in the lives of the saints. Like, there's so much more knowledge and wisdom to be derived from reading the lives of the saints than watching these talking heads, you know what I mean? Or even watching even me, you know, but I'm trying to help reorient things, hopefully, you know, but by the grace of God, hopefully I'm trying to reorient things a little bit and not trying to go too far down the rabbit holes, but I have to mention what I'm referring to so that you know what I'm referring to. I'm trying to talk about it without talking about it, you know, because the more attention you give to these things, it's just, that's what they want to do. They want to just, it's like a succubus. It's like a vampiric energy that just kind of sucks the life force out of you, you know? Mark, you know I wear the same crucifix as you? No, I didn't know that, Gorilla Biscuits. That's really cool. That's awesome. Beauty of the Struggle says the devil has no real power on his own. Thus, all he can do to divide us is just confuse, distort, and invert what already exists. Dude, I love saying that. The devil can't create. All he can do is invert and pervert what is already created. You know what I mean? And that's what we're seeing a lot of right now, man. It reminds me of the song by Godfather Don, lyrically inverted. That's a whole nother subject, but yeah, man. I think the cool thing about some of these psyops, like the Koof situation and some of this stuff, some of them are so blatantly evil that they wake people up out of a daze. You know what I mean? More and more people are waking up, kind of being woken up by these psyops, because they're just, I mean, it's so blatantly obvious, man. And it's just, what's wild to me is how many people still go along with it and drag their kids along with it and put their family members in these situations, like hugging them through plastic. And it was like a sci-fi movie. It was like a post-apocalyptic sci-fi movie from 2020 to like 2022-ish, around there. It was crazy to see what the world put themselves through to uphold a lie, to uphold some sort of like academic pride, some like pride in like academia and like this new modern pseudoscience. It was just wild, dude. It was so crazy. It was so crazy. Gorilla Biscuit says, I used to have one my brother gave me, but when my grandmother died, I put it in her casket with her at her funeral. Oh, wow. Lord have mercy. I didn't know you were supposed to do that, but I did it anyways, and it was right. That's crazy. Wow, dude. When did she pass? Gorilla Biscuit says 21 years ago, something like that. It's been a while. Wow. That's crazy, Gorilla Biscuits. Memory eternal. May her memory be eternal. Definitely, man. But yeah, man, just psyops left and right. I mean, you got the false union thing going on. That one just popped off like a few, and it's not even a real union, you know, but it's just kind of like sketchy optics. It just doesn't look good. And it's not even just optics. It's like behind the scenes, it's not good. You know? It's not a good thing at all. Ecumenism is a super heresy. It's not just a heresy, it's like the heresy of heresies. And there's a reason for that. It's because it's not that we shouldn't be loving or we shouldn't be courteous or we shouldn't be you know, to to fellow people that are that are searching for Christ. Because I don't really refer to people outside of Orthodoxy as Christians, even like with a lowercase c, because I think that's part of the danger of what's going on. Is like a two there could be two people talking. I'm saying Christian, you're saying Christian, and we're talking about two different things. I think we need more clear definitions, and we need to be more firm about what these words actually mean, and hold on to the reality of them. And men are here to hold boundaries, to set proper boundaries, to protect, to preserve beauty and innocence and truth. You know what I mean? And I'm just not seeing a lot of that. I mean, I'm sure there's men out there that want to do that, and they don't really know how to go about it. And I think that's what we're looking for. That's why a lot of people young men are being led into the Orthodox Church to be like, how do I protect this beautiful thing? How do I preserve this? This is what I've been looking for. This tradition, this culture, this like, it's the way it's supposed to be. It's the way Christianity always was and always was meant to be, you know? And once you see it, you really can't unsee it, man. I remember the first time I walked into an Orthodox church, into a liturgy, into the narthex, and just seeing those, I just knew I was home instantly, man. It goes beyond what my eyes could see. It was like the eye of your soul, the eye of your heart and it's not even just feeling, and like it goes beyond, like emotional manipulation that you can encounter in like a evangelical church with songs that are perfectly crafted to kind of pull at your heartstrings, and you know what I mean? It's a different level of reverence. And I think that's what really touches my heart when I see the way that the liturgy is performed and engaged with, is like this the level of reverence that we should have in the face of God. That's the level of reverence we should be having. That's the posture, the heart posture. You hear a lot of people say heart posture in Protestantism, but the real heart posture we should have is a prostration, to prostrate. The same heart posture that the apostles that saw Christ when he transfigured had. They just fell down in the face of the uncreated light because they weren't worthy and literally couldn't stand the how bright it was, how illuminating it was. You know what I mean? And as we're brought into the church, we're baptized, we are illumined, in the Holy Spirit, in Christ. You know what I mean? And it's a real thing. There's a reality to that is physical and metaphysical, And a lot of things in the Orthodox Church are like internal and external. It's about kind of acknowledging the connection there, because there is a connection. These movements we're doing with our body, these prostrations we're doing, change us internally over time. They have an effect on our heart. They humble our heart as we prostrate over and over again, saying the Jesus prayer, saying these words, saying the name of God, the name of the Theanthropos over and over again, Not in a vain repetition, but in a conscious repentance, in a perpetual state of prayer, as we're called by St. Paul the Apostle to pray continuously, And that's not easy to do, you know what I mean? But it's something that we strive for. It's a level that we strive for continuously. And another part about coming into the church is putting the old man to death, man. And I put this picture up, I think it was just today. It was a repost from a post a while back of like before Orthodoxy picture, and I look like a straight hoodlum, and you could just see in my eyes, I just don't give a, you know what I'm saying? Like you could just see it, dude. I really didn't, dude. I didn't care about anything or anyone, myself, anybody at that time. And you could literally see it in my eyes. Like the eyes are the window to the soul. You could look in my eyes at that point and be like, man, that dude does not care about anything. And I didn't. And it was there's a lot that took me to that point. We won't go through all that. I wasn't always like that. You know what I mean? I was a kid that got kind of bullied for a while, and then kind of became the bully, and then kind of just got lost in a lot of things. Got lost in my anger, like being bullied to the point where you snap, and then you just kind of like revel in that rage. That's kind of where I was right then. You know what I mean? I almost got lost in that power of like, wait, I can snap and intimidate and change situations and learn how to fight and just knock people out or whatever you want to think. It was bad. It was not a good, I was a violent, aggressive person at that time, and it just I wasn't in a good state of mind, and my soul wasn't in a good place. And it's like these actions I was doing, externally, these things I was engaging in were affecting my interior, my soul, my heart. You know what I mean? They were darkening my noose. The more I was engaging in these, drug addictions, running around with gangs, all kinds of nonsense like that, But then on the other side of that, coming into the Orthodox Church and starting to begin to repent and writing down your life confession and telling it to your priest and coming clean with all these things from your past and really confronting them head on and starting to put these habits to death and put this old man to death. You know what I mean? And developing new holy habits to replace these habits that are just scarring our soul. You know what I mean? And that takes time. That's a lifelong process. But putting the old man to death, at least for me, I think it is a lifelong process, because I think if you think you've totally put him to death, I think that's right when he pops up. You know what I mean? I think that's right when God lets him pop back up, just to kind of humble you again, just to be like, nah, that was your pride, actually. You did, you know what I mean? Like, just through the portal of pride, sin has this, like, the demons almost have this, like, opening on you if you get too prideful with it. You know what I mean? I don't know. I think there's something to that. I know there's something to that, because pride is like the sin of all sins, that everything kind of and they talk about this over and over again in the lives of the saints, like, they think that there'll be these moments, even when saints, along their journey to becoming saints, would have these moments of, like, of pride, of, like, maybe have a delusion of an angel coming or something of that sort, and it was actually a demon, presenting itself, and the pride of thinking they were worthy of seeing such a vision led them into, you see what I'm saying, some sort of spiritual delusion. And a lot of them came out on a better side after learning from that. But there's a point of repentance. You have to actually confront that and repent and acknowledge you made wrong and physically and visibly repent in a way that everyone can kind of see. And I think that's key, man, because the exterior does affect the interior. Those prostrations, these things we're doing, these actions we're engaging in affect us internally. And that applies to everything we do in our lives, That's real. Beauty of the Struggle says, the danger of ecumenism is that unconstrained, it has the power to diminish or erase all other heresies. If the truth has no boundaries, then anything goes. Anything's open for reinterpretation. Love and truth cannot be separate. They go hand in hand. I say this all the time, man. It's so true. And so does St. Paisios. That's a St. Paisios quote. You can't separate love and truth. It's just like faith and works. You can't separate these things. They go hand in hand. They have synergistic relationships, And that's what they want. That's what a lot of these demons want to do, is they start by separating these things. Let's put love over here. Let's put truth over here for a minute. And let's have a discussion about love over here. Lovey-dove-dove. Love is love. LGBTQ. Love is love, right? Well, because you're having a discussion about love without truth. Without truth. So it's a false love. It's a false light of the evil one. I make that point all the time, but I think it's very poetic in the reality of it. The truth is poetic when it's spoken in raw form. I do think that, I think there's a power there that just kind of, it needs to get hammered home. That reality needs to get hammered home. And there's always new people watching, so I like to always kind of touch on certain truths that always tend to kind of come back around, and like you come back to them in different situations and different points in your life. They start popping up in different ways, in different forms. But yeah, man, the putting the old man to death, dude, that is the ultimate battle. Putting that old man to death, dude. I think we're gonna get into some reading. Little half an hour monologue, not too crazy. But yeah, I'm trying to talk about certain things. I had some other things on my mind, but I don't want to delve too much. I don't want to give some of these psyops too much attention also, because that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make, is that we've got to reorient ourselves away from the distractions and back towards Christ. I mean, there was one of the best examples I have of, like, demonic energy and distractions and how demons really work through people would be me. These experiences that we had, my wife and I and our group, we would go, the OC Life group, at our original parish that we were baptized into Holy Orthodoxy in. We would go to these Planned Parenthood, we would go to the facility, the Planned Parenthood facility in San Diego, in downtown San Diego. We'd stand out front and we'd hold vigils. We'd pray. We wouldn't do like the rallies like some of the Protestants do that can be more loud and kind of provocative, but we would pray. And some of the time there would be these Antifa people that would show up. Once in a while, Antifa people would actually show up. I don't know if they're Antifa. I'm pretty sure some of them were Antifa. They'd have like masks on. Some of them would dress up in like fat suits. They had big pink fat suits that were like blown up, like a Christmas decoration on your front lawn or something. It was so weird, dude. Walking around looking like the Nutty Professor or something. It was weird. And they'd be walking around in fat suits, and they'd hold like signs that kind of mock Jesus or have blasphemy on them or something of the sort. And there was this one lady, this one girl there, she would have this megaphone, and she'd get right in your face and just scream blasphemous, disgusting, just try to provoke you. She'd try to provoke a reaction out of you any way she could. She'd get in there, and a lot of the time we'd have Protestants kind of over to the side. Maybe they'd be wandering, trying to figure out what we're doing, who we are. We usually weren't too reactionary to anything in the moment, because I've learned in these moments, especially when like demons are trying to provoke you, one of the best things to do is just focus on prayer. Just stay focused on prayer, and they'll move on to someone else that's giving them the energy they're looking for. Because there's this energy exchange that the demon feeds off of, that they're looking for. And it has to do with getting you in an emotional, kind of worked up, nervous, fearful, even angry, some sort of energy to feed off of for the demon. That's what they're looking for a lot of the time, these vampiric kind of energy vampires. And if you don't give them that, they'll move on. And they would engage with the Protestants. The Protestants will talk to them. They'll try to debate with them, this and that. And and a lot of the time the Protestants will get sucked into some weird little kind of like engagement that didn't benefit either side. No one ever wins. They're just kind of talking in circles. It gets worked up. They get worked up. They get all angry and emotional. Both sides are emotional. But that's what the demon wanted that was working through the person, was to get you worked up and distracted. And now you're not balanced. You're off your center. You're just like, you know what I mean? You're not thinking straight. And that's when they can catch you slipping and make you do something out of character, and then they say, hey, look, is that Christian? You hit somebody, you end up punching somebody or something. Is that, you know what I mean? And then they hold that against you. And they use that as an example for like, look, this is what Christians do when they're trying to provoke this situation. But this is why prayer is so important, man. Because it's like, when you just focus on that prayer, there's a real power there. There's a real power to the prayer, but also just like not letting the demons distract you from prayer. Have you ever noticed when you go to your prayer corner, sometimes if you're Orthodox, you go to your prayer corner to say your morning prayers, maybe your evening prayers, maybe you want to say an akatist or something, but you just want to have that time. Have you ever noticed some of the distractions that come, maybe even externally in the world? Maybe sounds outside, people driving by, revving up their engine. Maybe your cat just like pees in the corner. Or maybe like your dog starts barking, or they start fighting with each other, or your kids start fighting, or there's just something. Or maybe it's just in your head. Maybe these logismi, these thoughts, just start kind of piling in out of nowhere, right as you're like, maybe you're in the middle of the prayer. Maybe you've already started it and you're in the middle of Psalm 50. And these thoughts start coming in your head, and you're still saying the prayer, but you're not there. You're not present in the prayer. The demon's like, you know what I mean? It's like you're thinking about some situation that happened with some person, and you're like trying to restructure it in your head. I should have said this and I should have said that. You know what I mean? And it may seem so subtle, and it may be like, yeah, that's just a distraction. Yeah, but while you're saying Psalm 50, right when you're saying Psalm 50 though, man, I'm telling you, dude, I would be at these Planned Parenthood prayer vigils, and we had a buddy of mine who was a reader, and or sometimes we'd have a priest there, or a deacon, or whoever was available. A lot of times there would be a priest, and whenever we would have this point in the vigil where we would get to the gospel reading, there'd be a gospel reading, and man, almost every time we'd get to the gospel reading, if there was any like Antifa, or sometimes that's when the Antifa would come, there would always be like a distraction or some sort of attack, some sort of demonic attack to take us out of the moment, to distract us from the gospel, from hearing that. And it was almost like on cue, dude. And we would all like, I mean, not everyone would get it, but I look at my buddy, and he knew, you know, like this happened right in the middle of the gospel for a reason. You know what I mean? And it's the demon kind of letting you know I'm a demon. They attack during certain times because they're letting you know this is a demon, dude. You know what I mean? It can be subtle sometimes. It can be subtle, but that's how it all starts, man. Evil starts in very subtle ways, just in the imagination. And that's Orthodox Christianity, man. That's what they'll tell you. And it's true. And it's not just orthodoxy, it's reality. It's reality. So yeah. Okay, I think that was pretty good. We extended it a little bit there. But we have a little book we're going to be reading through a little bit here today. This one's Orthodox. This one's really good. It's called Voice in the Wilderness, Reflections on the Life and Legacy of Father Seraphim Rose by Robert John Hammond. And Robert John Hammond is the gentleman that directed the film, the documentary, American Orthodox. It's about an hour long, really good, really well done. He showed it at our parish, came and visited. I got to meet him. Really cool guy. He's actually familiar with the channel. He likes the channel. He came up to me. I was trying to let him do his thing. I try not to bug people sometimes because, I don't know. And he came up to me and he approached me and he was like, he knew who I was and what Light of Tabor was. And it just blew my mind. I was like, wow, that's humbling. And really cool, down to earth, awesome guy. Got to talk with him for a bit and had a great time watching his documentary. Highly recommend checking out his documentary, American Orthodox. It's really good. And yeah, he's got a book also. I got the other book, American Orthodox is the book that kind of goes along with that documentary and just kind of expounds upon some of that info. But yeah, he also put this one out. So yeah, two good books, both new. One was 2024, one was 2025. I think this one is, which one's this one? This one's the 2025 one, Voice in the Wilderness. And I'm on chapter 8, titled The Royal Path, Orthodoxy in the Modern World. I know it's backwards, but I'm just trying to, you get it. You get the image. You know what I'm doing. You get it. All right, here we go. The early morning air was sharp and cold as I stood outside my parish church, the faint glow of dawn spilling over the horizon. My breath clouded the space in front of me, a visible reminder of the crisp stillness. I was alone, clutching a prayer rope and replaying the tumult of the last few years in my mind. I had walked through extremes in my spiritual life, flirting first with the easy embrace of modern religious trends, then plunging headlong into an all-consuming obsession with strictness. Both had promised me certainty and both had left me hollow. Man, you know what I mean? Like that's what so many things in the New Age do. Is both like so many heresies, heretical forms of religion, cults, New Age nonsense, these gurus, these self-proclaimed gurus in the New Age, these retreats, these ayahuasca retreats, you know what I mean? Dude, talk about leaving you hollow, dude. Don't go to that. Don't do that. Don't do it. I'm telling you, it'll leave you all messed up. Way more messed up than you came in. And if you tell them you're messed up after, they'll gaslight you and they'll be like, well, it's because you didn't prepare properly. You didn't do. It's you, dude. It's not you know what I mean? It's not the weird ritual we just put. It's not the weird demonic ritual we just put you through. It's you, dude. It's you. It's because you know what I'm saying? It's probably because you're white. It's probably because you're white and you have conquistadors in your bloodline. That's probably what it is, dude. They tried to do it to me, dude. They'll do it to you too, I'm telling you. You don't take my word for it. You can learn the hard way like I did. It was in moments like this, standing quietly in the half light, that I began to understand the balance that Father Seraphim Rose had spoken of so often. The royal path wasn't just an abstract ideal, it was a lifeline. Father Seraphim's warnings about the perils of both modernism and Pharisaic rigidity weren't just ideas, they were experiences I lived out, stumbling from one extreme to the other. Before I forget, we have like a goal. Yeah, we have like a goal. I totally forgot about the goal. So we got a goal. This is for the place we're going to be opening. Like I said before, the goal we're trying to reach is 5,000 just to get in the door. And so far we have raised $1,370. So we're doing pretty good. We got 1,370 towards it, and you can see the 2,500 kind of little place right there, halfway through. And we're trying to get to that, and we're trying to ultimately get to 5,000, hopefully by the end of the month, so we can get our foot in the door with this place. It's going to be a sandwich soup shop / Orthodox bookstore, so we can spread Orthodoxy in a small area that doesn't have. It only has one small Orthodox church, and we need to spread it. We got to spread Orthodoxy here, man. And yeah, so anything you donate today, we have the Stream Elements link pinned at the top. You can donate through that if you want, and send in a message through that. If you want, you could also donate through the PayPal link that's in the description. I think I put it in the chat as well earlier. I might be able to put it again, but I'm not sure. Yeah, everything helps, man. Any little bit helps. And if you can't donate, don't worry about it. It's all good. Just hang out and have a good time. But if you can donate, we really appreciate it, and we really could use it. And it's going towards a good cause, a family-run business, Orthodox. So if you want to see more Orthodoxy in this world full of psyops and madness and chaos, go ahead and donate a little bit towards helping us reach this goal. And we'll see what we can do through the grace of God, you know? Before Orthodoxy, I had been captivated by the allure of a faith that bent to fit my desires. Ecumenism, exactly. See, he knows. Reformism and the comfortable vagueness of modern spirituality had wrapped themselves around my heart like warm blankets, reassuring but stifling. Man, I knew I liked this dude. That's why me and this dude got along so well. He knows what's up, man. He knows what's up, bro. He knows what's up. Good guy, man. Great book. Great writer. Great writer. Great writer and a great dude. Then, as an Orthodox convert, I swung hard in the other direction, consumed by a zeal for correctness that was as icy and unyielding as the wind on that winter morning. I would measure my faith against others, convinced that my rigid adherence to the rules made me more devout. The royal path, avoiding both laxity and excessive strictness, was nowhere in sight. And this is something Father Turbo talks about a lot with one of my favorite, my favorite podcast of all time, The Royal Path. Just because they were touching on this Zionist and ecumenistic and Protestant Zionist nonsense, like way ahead of the game. And I know other people talk about it, but they were talking about it on the right, which is a no-no, right? And I'm not a lefty, dude. I'm not talking about politics. I'm trying to scale things up to the spiritual. That's what they talk about on the Royal Path podcast. Scale it up, dog. You're down here dibbling and dabbling in this low. It's a mask. It's a mask. Go pull the curtain back. There's a Wizard of Oz behind there, dude. That's all I'm saying. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't know if you know what I'm saying. Somebody knows what I'm saying. Father Seraphim had lived in this tension and understood its dangers better than most. His teachings often returned to the words of the church fathers. That's a good place to go. That's where you root yourself in. The foundation of the faith, man, like the church fathers. Root yourself in that, in those readings. Ye shall not turn aside to the right hand or to the left hand, but go by the royal path. This balance is not lukewarmness, but the difficult, steady walk of discretion. St. John Cassian had warned of the extremes, the laxity of filling one's belly, and this is why fasting is so important. Prayer and fasting, dude. It all connects, dude. Just about like these things you're doing with your body physically, like prostrations, letting out anger, doing this, like, you know what I mean? Like it all affects you internally. And the prideful austerity of excessive fasting. See, it can go the other way too. You can fasting with that. This is why it's important to have a spiritual father and be in the church. My spiritual father, the priest that baptized me originally, the priest that baptized me into Holy Orthodoxy, he had a problem with this. He had a problem with, he told me a story about when he was first coming into the church, he was fasting like way just over the limit, and he didn't have anyone to tell him any different. He was just trying to do what he thought was right. He was trying to do it the right way, like the official way, and he was pushing himself to like crazy extremes and working crazy hours, and he was like almost like fainting. I think he was fainting. He was making himself faint, but he was taking it very serious. But that's like an example of excessive fasting under not under spiritual guidance, not under proper Orthodox spiritual guidance that can actually do you physical and spiritual harm. And it's a good thing. You gotta have a spiritual father if you're fasting. Don't just be out here fasting on your own like some Protestant, dude. That's some Protestant stuff. You need a spiritual father to guide you properly. Follow the liturgical calendar. Take it slow. You know, don't push yourself too far, but no, you know, be aware of who you are and where you are, and be honest with yourself and with your spiritual father. Both, he said, are traps that pull us away from sober-mindedness. For Father Seraphim, these principles weren't just historical, they were the heartbeat of true orthodoxy, especially in an age that seemed determined to pull believers in every direction but the center. Which is, I know what these psyops are doing, right? Try to take you up. It's not focused. You're not focused on the prayer, on Christ. Not focused on Christ. Now look over here, dude. Now look over here, dude. Now look at this. Now look, but what about this little sparkling argument over here? Oh, look, it's just a pretty little. It's got a new bow on it. No, it's an old heresy, but it's got a pretty new bow and it's got some glitter on it. Look at it. Look at it sparkling. Look at that heresy sparkling. I'm just saying. One of the most dangerous temptations he warned against was the allure of modernism, ecumenism, reformism, and the spirit of the age seduced by promising inclusion and relevance. Talking about what everybody's talking about, right? Let's just talk about what everybody's talking about. I had been swept up in that current before, drawn to a spirituality that asked for little and gave even less. It was the kind of faith that was easy to carry but impossible to rely on when life demanded something real. Father Seraphim saw this trend as an erosion of the ancient faith, a subtle yet devastating compromise that drained orthodoxy of its transformative power. He was unapologetic in his critique. To walk the royal path meant to reject the world's ever-changing demands and hold fast to the unshakable truth of Christ. Let me check the stream elements just to make sure I'm up to date with everything. Okay, we don't got no donations yet. Checking the PayPal real quick. We're going to check the PayPal real quick just so we stay on top of everything. So we say thank you to the people who are showing us some love. Oh, look at that. That's nice. Somebody sent in $2 for the gold. Thank you so much for the donation. Crystalline, I don't want to dox anybody because I'm reading it on PayPal. So I'm going to say thank you for the $2 donation. You know who you are. Thank you very much, and we appreciate it. Every little bit counts, man. Every little bit helps. We really appreciate every little bit. All right, now I got to find out where I was. Yeah, unshakable truth of Christ. Yet Father Seraphim's warnings about zeal without knowledge hit even closer to home for me. When I first discovered the beauty and depth of orthodoxy, I wanted to prove myself worthy of it. I pored over books, learned the rules, and measured my worth by how well I adhered to them. But my strictness wasn't grounded in love, it was rooted in pride. Man, that happens a lot. I wanted others to see my piety, to recognize how orthodox I had become. It was a hollow righteousness, one that left me isolated and judgmental. Father Seraphim had a name for this: zeal not according to knowledge. It's a subtle and dangerous trap. The subtleties. Let's read that again. It was a hollow righteousness, one that left me isolated and judgmental. Father Seraphim had a name for this: zeal not according to knowledge. It's a subtle and dangerous trap, wherein the pursuit of virtue becomes tainted by the very pride it's meant to overcome. It's a subtle and dangerous trap, dude, I'm telling you. One of the lessons Father Seraphim taught often was St. John Cassian's teaching on discretion. Excessive asceticism, he said, is more dangerous than indulgence because pride in one's supposed virtue becomes an almost impenetrable barrier to repentance. I've seen this in myself. It was easier to repent when I was caught in the obvious sins of my former life than when I was steeped in the hidden sin of self-righteousness. Woo-wee. Fire, dude. Fire. That's why I like this dude's, man. Robert John Hammond, coming with the heat, dude. Coming with the heat. I'm going to read that again. I've seen this in myself. It was easier to repent when I was caught in the obvious sins of my former life than when I was steeped in the hidden sin of self-righteousness. Walking the royal path isn't about appearing devout. It's about being humble enough to admit how far you still have to go. A turning point in my own journey came during a conversation with an elderly priest who embodied the very balance I lacked. His wisdom was quiet, almost imperceptible at first, but the longer I spoke with him, the more I realized what he was teaching me. Faith without love is a lifeless thing. He didn't need to tell me directly. His life was the message. Whew. He corrected gently, encouraged generously, and lived with a joy that could only come from walking the royal path himself. What's up, jamming musician? Thanks for being here, dude. We're doing a little bit of we're cozy. We got the Christmas tree. We got the goal going towards the business, and we're reading an Orthodox Christian book called Voice in the Wilderness, Reflections on the Life and Legacy of Father Seraphim Rose. He was an Orthodox Christian monk and priest. He was a Hira monk, and he was a man who lived near where I'm at, in the wilderness in Northern California. Pretty cool dude, if I don't say so myself. If I do say so myself. However that saying goes. Let's see, where are we? Beep, beep, boom. I think we're here. Father Seraphim's teachings are not theoretical. They are deeply practical, rooted in the struggles of real life, real people navigating the complexities of faith. He described the royal path as lying between the spirit of the age on one side and strictness as an idol on the other. It's a path that demands vigilance, discernment, and a humility that recognizes our constant need for God's grace. This is not a compromise, but a commitment to the fullness of the faith. As Father Seraphim wrote, true orthodoxy does not move in step with the times, but neither does it retreat into an exclusive fortress of self-satisfaction. For me, the royal path has been a journey of unlearning as much as learning. I've had to let go of the easy faith that asked for nothing and gave me nothing, as well as the harsh strictness that left me cold and alone. Man, well said. Really well written, man. Merry Christmas to you as well. Merry Christmas to you as well, jamming musician, and to your loved ones and your family as well, and a Happy New Year as well. Merry Christmas to all of you. Merry Christmas. Yeah, definitely, dude. All right, where are we at? For me, the royal path has always been a journey. Yeah, that's where we were. Okay, well, I'm going to read it again because I'm somewhere in the middle of there. For me, the royal path has been a journey of unlearning as much as learning. I've had to let go of the easy faith that asked for nothing and gave me nothing, as well as the harsh strictness that left me cold and alone. What remains is a deeper, more sober faith, one that knows its weaknesses and clings to Christ all the more for them. Father Seraphim's life and teachings have been a guidepost on this path, reminding me that orthodoxy isn't about extremes, but about the quiet, steady pursuit of holiness. The royal path isn't glamorous. It doesn't call attention to itself or promise immediate results. It's a long, often difficult road marked by small, faithful steps. Let me take a sip of coffee here. You boys still sick a little bit. We're trying to get over it. We're doing Freestyle Friday tomorrow, no matter what. I'll tell you that. I always lose my freaking. Here we go. It's a long, often difficult road marked by small, faithful steps, but it's also the only road that leads to the kingdom. Walking this path requires us to resist the pull of both laxity and excessive zeal, to embrace a faith that is as humble as it is unyielding. It's a path illuminated by the lives of the saints, the wisdom of the fathers, and the example of those like Father Seraphim, who knew that the true rebellion against the world is not found in extremes, but in the steady, unwavering walk towards Christ. This is the path I strive to follow, stumbling as I go, but always finding grace to continue. It is the royal path, the way of the cross, the only way home. Man, this guy's a good writer, dude. Yeah, shout out to Jammin' Musician, dude. I appreciate you stopping in, dude. Appreciate you stopping on in. It's very cool of you, bro. Very, very cool of you. And let's get on to, let's see, how long is chapter 9? Depends how long this chapter is. Let's see. Oh, that's not long at all. We'll do chapter 9. Reflections on Father Seraphim Rose, his life and works. We'll show you that little picture right there so you could kind of get an idea. You know what I'm saying? There we are. Bishop Nicolos with an icon of Father Seraphim Rose. That's what that picture was. All right. The fog rolled in from the Pacific, enveloping the city in a soft gray shroud. From my window, I watched as the mist crept down the streets, blurring the edges of the world outside. There was something uniquely contemplative about such moments, when time itself seems to slow, when the city hushes beneath the weight of the overcast sky. On my lap rested the massive biography of Father Seraphim Rose, over 1,000 pages long, yet astonishingly, I could not put it down. The book wasn't heavy in my hands the way some long volumes are. Instead, it was a page turner, a journey that pulled me along with such intensity that I found myself reading late into the night, unwilling to break away. And that's how I felt with all Father Seraphim's books, pretty much. Especially Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future. Man, that one really... I was coming out of the New Age and I was just eating that up. There was a great book for anybody coming out of New Age. There was something deeply personal in these pages, something that resonated not only with my intellectual past, but with my own restless search for the truth. From the very beginning, I saw myself in Eugene Rose. That's Father Seraphim Rose's real name, Eugene. His early life was marked by a profound hunger for meaning, one that led him through the same intellectual and spiritual landscapes I had wandered. He was drawn to Eastern philosophies. Guess who else was? Seduced by the mystical allure of Zen and Taoism, just as I had been. When I was younger, I had devoured the writings of Alan Watts. I was also into Alan Watts, whose television, lectures, and books like This Is It had framed Zen Buddhism as the ultimate path to enlightenment. True enlightenment is repentance. St. Paisios of Mount Athos. Jot that down. All right? I explored. that's my Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia moment right there. I explored martial arts, studying Tai Chi Quan, absorbing its Taoist underpinnings and reflecting on the words of Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching. At least I think that's how that's pronounced. It was remarkable then to discover how deeply Eugene had also immersed himself in these traditions. When he attended the American Academy of Asian Studies in San Francisco, he was surrounded by the same intellectual climate that had shaped my own early fascination with the East. That institution later became the California Institute of Integral Studies, CIIS, a place where I, too, had personal connections. Friends and relatives had worked there, and I even helped create a short film that used CIIS as its primary location. Learning that Eugene had walked these same halls, encountered these same ideas, and yet had still moved beyond them in search of something deeper, something more complete, struck me profoundly. Father Seraphim's search for the truth. What made Father Seraphim Rose, his life and work, such a compelling read was that it was not a conventional biography. It did not merely chart Eugene's transformation into Father Seraphim. It pulled the reader into his journey, his evolving worldview, his intense personal struggles. The book laid bare the very essence of his search for truth, a search that began in intellectual rebellion, deepened through philosophy, ultimately found resolution in the Orthodox Church. One of the most fascinating aspects of Father Seraphim's early life was his relationship with his academic mentor, Dr. Jiming Xian, a Chinese scholar who had fled communist China and whose teachings on traditional Chinese wisdom captivated Eugene. Dr. Xian's view of Confucianism and Taoism was rooted in the old world understanding of an ordered cosmos, a belief in the fundamental structure of reality that stood in stark contrast to the existential chaos that Eugene found in Western academia. Under Xian's guidance, Eugene became fluent in classical Chinese, immersing himself in the ancient texts, convinced for a time that the wisdom of the East held the key to understanding life's mysteries. But something was missing. Despite the elegance of Taoist thought and the rigorous logic of Confucian philosophy, Eugene found himself unsatisfied. He realized that these systems, for all their wisdom, lacked something essential, an encounter with the personal, living God. There was a sense of order, but no redemption, a path, but no savior. This was a turning point. He began to question the premise of his search. Was truth simply an abstract principle to be understood, or was it something or someone to be encountered? Breaking away, the influence of Western nihilism. And that's a crazy, dense read from Father Seraphim Rose's nihilism. I thought it was going to be a quick read because it's kind of skinny. I was like, oh, I'm going to run through this like God's Revelation to the Human Heart, which is the first Father Seraphim Rose book I read. Real tiny one, easy read. Nihilism, not as easy of a read. Very dense. I had to take like time to just think about and just like meditate and think and just meditate on the page. I would do like I'd read the page and I'd have to think about, just really let it soak in everything I just read for like hours before I could move on to the next page. I'd be like a page a day, and I was just like, I'm just gonna sit on this for a minute, let it resonate a little bit. It's a good read though, really worth reading, but a more dense read than I expected. Breaking away the influence of Western nihilism. Even before his full turn to Christianity, Eugene struggled with the weight of Western nihilism, particularly the works of Nietzsche. The book describes his dark period. Yeah, the nihilism book, dude. It talks about like where he came from and what he was writing. He was writing this other book. He was like preparing this other book, and then you know what I mean? He kind of had this spiritual awakening. When he found himself enthralled by the existential abyss, convinced that if life had no inherent meaning, then all that remained was to embrace the void. Don't black pill yourself, dude. It was during this time that he formed friendships with fellow intellectuals who shared his disillusionment with modernity, yet no one in his circle seemed to have an answer beyond cynical detachment. Reading about this chapter of his life was haunting, because I had felt echoes of that same despair. When you strip the world of its divine foundation, when you reject the idea that truth is something absolute, you are left only with emptiness. I had seen so many others walk that road, some finding fleeting solace in New Age spirituality, others drowning in material distractions, and some simply succumbing to despair. For Eugene, the breakthrough came not only not through reason alone, but through experience. His first encounter with Orthodox Christianity was an intellectual exercise. It was something deeper. When he stepped into a Russian Orthodox church in San Francisco, he was overwhelmed by a sense of homecoming. It was not a philosophy, not an idea. It was something real, and it changed everything. The tension between intellectualism and faith. One of the most compelling themes in the book was the tension Eugene felt between his intellect and his growing faith. He had spent years sharpening his mind, dissecting arguments, pursuing knowledge, but he came to see that true wisdom was not found in endless debates, but in submission to God. This struggle was not an easy one. That's something I've found along the way, man. I used to be big on debates before I came to Orthodoxy, after coming to Orthodoxy. Lord have mercy. I've tried to make an effort to not debate as much, just because my pride tends to get in there. You know what I mean? Every time, at some point. For reals. Reading about this chapter in his life was haunting, because I had felt echoes of the same despair. Yeah. Here we go. The tension between intellectualism and faith. One of the most compelling themes in the book was the tension Eugene felt between his intellect and his growing faith. He had spent years sharpening his mind, dissecting arguments, pardon me, pursuing knowledge, but he came to see that true wisdom was not found in endless debates, but in submission to God. The struggle was not an easy one. His relationship with Gleb Podmashensky, later Father Herman, Lord have mercy, was particularly significant in this regard. Together, they founded the St. Herman of Alaska Brotherhood, and while their mission was the same, their approaches often clashed. Father Herman was charismatic, eager to bring the faith to as many people as possible, sometimes at the cost of careful discernment. Eugene, on the other hand, was deeply cautious, wary of sensationalism, determined to preserve the purity of Orthodox tradition. This dynamic created tension, but it also helped refine Eugene's understanding of his role. As he entered monastic life and took the name Seraphim, his transformation was ongoing. He was no longer a seeker. He had found what he had been searching for all along, and yet his mission was far from over. That's where I'm at, dude. That's where I feel like I'm at, dude. The power of his writings. The book does a masterful job of showing how Father Seraphim's greatest legacy was not just in the monastery he helped build, but in the words he left behind. His articles, letters, and books became lifelines for those searching for truth, especially in an era when spirituality had become a marketplace of shallow, feel-good solutions. His critiques of modernity, his warnings about the dangers of a faith disconnected from tradition, and his calls to return to a more ascetic, spiritually serious life continue to resonate today. Final thoughts. And this isn't the end of the book. This is just the end of this chapter. Father Seraphim Rose, his life and works is more than a biography. It is a spiritual roadmap, a chronicle of one man's relentless pursuit of faith. It is a book that challenges, that inspires, that lingers in the soul long after the last page has been turned. I closed the book and looked out the window. The fog still hung over the city, but now it felt different. Beneath its shifting gray veil, something remained steady, unmoving. Truth, not as an idea, but as a person. And that was what Father Seraphim Rose had found. And through his life, through his words, he continued to lead others, like myself, toward that same enduring reality. And we'll pick back up on chapter 10 sometime soon. Reflections on God's revelation to the human heart. Ooh, that could be good. That was the first Father Seraphim book that I read, man. That was sent to me by a dude named Andrew when I was just an inquirer. And he sent me a care package, and that was in it, and it changed my life, dude. Changed my life. Shout out Andrew, a.k.a. Thank You. Who I believe is banned from Jim Bob's chat. Lord have mercy. Can we revoke the ban? Because he converted me. He helped convert me to Orthodox. Can we get a revoke on that? For my boy, Thank You. Can we do it? I don't know. Maybe we can do it, man. All right, next up. 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, dude. A classic, a Christmas classic. We're going to be reading that. We're going to be bringing the Christmas vibes. We're going to be reading maybe a little history of Coca-Cola Santa Claus, the Santa Claus that is not St. Nicholas, who was a bishop in the Orthodox Christian Church, the real Santa, but they've created this kind of Coca-Cola Santa. There's a place for Coca-Cola Santa, maybe on a Coca-Cola collector's cup that you have in your fridge that you drink sometimes, you know what I mean? But should he be above the saints? Nah. Should he be above Christ? Nah. You know what I'm saying? I think there's a place for it, but it gets out of hand pretty quick, the materialistic aspect of Christmas, you know? All right, let's get into it. Dear reader, the book 'Twas the Night Before Christmas has been a mainstay of our family's holiday traditions as long as I can remember. Every Christmas, you know what? I don't know if I want to read this part. I'd rather get right into Coca-Cola Santa. A tribute to Coca-Cola Santa. I don't want to give a tribute to Coca-Cola Santa, but I'm going to read this, and we'll see where it goes. And if it's too much, I'll just opt out and go straight into 'Twas the Night, dude. In 1930, famed Chicago commercial illustrator Haddon Sundblom painted a jolly, red-garbed Santa Claus for the Coca-Cola Company's 1931 Christmas advertising campaign, beginning a tradition that continues to this day. It's for a Coca-Cola commercial, dog. That tells you right there. You know what I mean? Like, that tells you everything you need to know right there, dude. No matter what you say after that. It's all good, though. I mean, I don't like, you know. Sundblom may not have realized it at the time, but his depictions of the Coca-Cola Santa, issued annually from 1931 to 1964, formed America's perception of what Santa Claus looks like. Prior to that time, the image of Santa in the United States varied as widely as its melting pot immigrants' memories of Father Christmas from their native countries. American Santas were sometimes shown as tall and thin, and other times as short and wizened, clad in a rainbow of colors and styles. While Sundblom's style varied slightly over the years, the Coca-Cola Santa images always had a charismatic warmth and charm. They incorporated elements reflective of the times. During the 1930s. Dolls resembling child actress Shirley Temple appeared in the toy sack. During World War II, war bonds were displayed. Regardless of the era, Sundblom's Coca-Cola Santa consistently had the ability to draw the viewer into the scene and express the joyousness of a season best celebrated with family. Most enchanting was Sundblom's knack for showing the Coca-Cola Santa as more than just a toy delivery man. The Coca-Cola Santa was also a participant in the holiday festivities, a big kid in fact, as he raided the refrigerator, played with the toys, and always, of course, refreshed himself with an ice-cold Coca-Cola. This endearing childlike quality has surely contributed to the enduring appeal of the images. Although Sundblom painted his last Coca-Cola Santa for the 1964 Christmas season, the Coca-Cola Company still uses the Coca-Cola Santa year after year in its holiday advertising and packaging. We are honored to have made this contribution to the American holiday tradition and look forward to sharing this cherished legacy with the world for many years to come. Written by Philip F. Mooney, Director, Archives Department of the Coca-Cola Company. All right, good for you, bucko. Let's get into 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, dude. Let's do that. All right? A little 'Twas the Night. A little 'twas for yuz. A little 'twas for yuz. A little 'twas. We're going to take you there, dude. We're going to take you right there to that place right there. We're going to take you there, dude. We're going to put you there, dude. We're going to put you right there. Right up in there, dude. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas, the Orthodox bishop, soon would be there. Shay got some pics. Shay got some pics. Take you along for the ride. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap. Settling down for a little winter's nap right there, dude. That's how you do it. Snuggle on into the cozy bed during winter, you know? Nice and cozy. Got them cozy vibes. Alrighty. We're just staying on top of things here. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the sash. Gotta throw that sash up, dog. Gotta throw that sash on up. You know what I'm saying? You got a sash with that. You gotta throw that sash up with a little sass, with a little J. Dyer sass. Throw up that sash with a little sass. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below. How about that, dude? How about that? If you guys want to donate, we've only got $2 so far towards the goal. As far as this stream, we're not very. This is not a very financially productive stream so far. So if we could get some more donations in, that would really help. When what to my wondering eyes should appear, but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. Saint Nick coming on in, dude. Flying on in, dude. Coming in hot. Saint Nicholas coming in hot, dude. More rapid than eagles, his courses they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. Look at that, dude. Got a bunch of reindeers, dude. We got a lot of deers out here, man. I'll tell you. Out here in the forest, we got a lot of deers out here. Whole lot of deers. Not a whole lot of fears, but a whole lot of deers. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop, the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He's coming in hot, dude. He's coming in, dude. St. Nicholas, bro. He was dressed all in fur, from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. You know what I'm saying? It's interesting because the poem is talking about St. Nicholas, and the depiction of the picture is Coca-Cola Santa. It's kind of an interesting contrast, right? Here's another. This one's just all art, this page. Just straight art, dude. We're taking you in. Picture worth 1,000 words type of situation here, okay? His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. Check it out, homies. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk. And laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew, like the down of a thistle. How about that, dude? That was some bars right there. Like the down of a thistle, dude. But I heard him exclaim, as he drove out of sight, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. How about that, huh? How about that? How about that? A little wholesome Christmas reading, dude. And then there's a section to write your favorite holiday memories in the back. How about that? A couple more depictions of old Coca-Cola Santa Claus here. A couple more depictions. That's just cozy. That's just cozy. Well, I think that's what we got for today, man. I don't know where this is going from here. But, yeah. I think we might have picked a maybe not the best time to stream. Maybe a bad time slot. We might have some other people streaming right now. I don't know. But, I appreciate everybody coming in who came and hanging out with us. I appreciate the donation. Every bit helps, man. $2, $1. All the dollars help. And yeah, that's the goal. We're trying to reach 5,000 by the end of the month. If we keep getting $2 each stream, I mean, I might as well just quit streaming. And you know, we're working side jobs trying to raise this money too. So we're doing everything we can to raise this money. Beauty of the struggle. Cozy stream, brother. I hope you and your family have a Merry Christmas. Well, same to you and yours, brother. Thank you so much. Appreciate y'all being here. But yeah, we gotta keep working towards this goal, and God willing, we can reach it by the end of the month, and open up this Orthodox bookstore / sandwich soup cafe. So God willing, with the help of the right people, we'll be able to make that happen. And yeah, I'll be back here tomorrow. Freestyle Friday, we're coming in hot, dude. Don't miss Freestyle Friday tomorrow. I'm coming in hot with this one, dude. Coming in hot. Don't you miss it. Be there or be square. Take care, y'all.